I just wanted to make this show today because maybe it's a little bit too early because United haven't actually confirmed Champions League yet, but they're there. They pretty much are. And what we've had over the past 24 hours, 48 hours or so, are a few stories talking about players wanting assurances or players committing their future to the football club. We know that Casemiro is going. United made that decision as much as he did, right? And if United are willing to say goodbye to that contract, say goodbye to Casemiro, who's been one of United's best players for a number of months now, throughout the entire season, they've got to replace him properly. And I am looking at them, that recruitment team, to make the right decisions. I'm not going to slate them before the decisions are made. The manager conversation as well. I'm trusting them to make the right decision. That is how I'm looking at this. And I don't exactly know what the right decision is. I maybe lean more towards giving Carrick the job than anybody else, but I'm not. I can be convinced either way. I really can be. The performances aren't there, but I just feel like this is the lowest risk scenario for United if they go with Carrick. But it's on them. It really is. And I'm going to be a much harsher critic, I think, moving forward than I have been in the past. I know a lot of people have maybe had issues with that recently or over the past couple of years and my patience with INEOS, but I truly feel as though they do have the best interests of the football club at heart in terms of going and winning trophies. I've always said that, right? But now is the time to step it up. And Bruno Fernandes wants those assurances as well. There's a report from The Telegraph, which has come out on Wednesday morning, saying United want to keep Bruno Fernandes. This is from James Ducker. United are determined to keep Bruno Fernandes, but their captain wants assurances over the club's ambitions. So Bruno, this is what actually inspired me to make this podcast today. He wants assurances over the club's ambitions, right? He has a contract with 1 year left plus an option for another year. But in this contract, there is a clause for around 65 million euros or 56 million pounds, which can be triggered. So a Bayern Munich who played against PSG in the Champions League on Tuesday night. And my God, you know, I'm talking about assurances and ambitions here. My God, the attacking standard is high. So if United are going back into the Champions League next season, they could potentially face one of those teams. And oh my God, like they seriously have to upgrade. They really, really do. If they want to compete and start being treated again like the status of Bayern Munich, because that's what we should be expecting out of United. Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, these kinds of teams. If United want to be back at that table, we need upgrades. We really do. Bruno Fernandes wants to see that too. The report goes on to say Old Trafford officials have made it abundantly clear to the Portugal midfielder that he is a vital part of their plans. I personally see him as the best player in the Premier League. I think he deserves the Player of the Year award. I voted for him in the Football Writers Association Player of the Year voting as well. I hope he goes and wins those awards. I hope he breaks the assist record as well. And I hope United come third and they can build on this. But Bruno is turning 32 this year. And I think even Bruno's staunchest critics down the years can probably look at him this season and think, yeah, man, this is actually a really, really good footballer who in another team that was less dysfunctional and maybe more set up to go and succeed, he would have a lot more trophies in his cabinet. I think Bruno has spoken openly numerous times that he hasn't achieved everything that he wanted to achieve at Manchester United to this point. But now is the time. Whether he signs a new contract to get rid of this clause in the summer or not, I'm not entirely sure. We'll see how that goes. But United do have to do something. And the option is there for him. If a club wants to come in and put that 65 million euros down on the table, he can choose to go, and there's nothing that United can do about it at the moment. But the job is for United to actually say to Bruno Fernandes and show to Bruno Fernandes with the recruitment that they do over the course of the 2026 summer transfer window. They need to prove to Bruno Fernandes that they can build a squad that is capable of competing on all fronts. And I think United are short. I went on Sirius XM yesterday with on the Grumpy Pundit show. And I was asked, how many players do you think United need to actually go and compete for these titles? And I ended up saying 8. I don't think they're going to sign 8 in the summer. Maybe they can if they spend big on 4 players, maybe 5 players, and you can pick up some bargain deals. I'm looking at, like, if you want a backup striker or something like that, Danny Welbeck is 36 years old. It shouldn't cost you too much. If you just want that extra bit of experience and security and rotation, Danny Welbeck would be, I think he'd be a fantastic pickup if United could do it. I don't know whether they will because he signed a new or extended his contract at Brighton recently. But Bruno Fernandes wants these assurances met. He wants to know that the club are moving in the right direction and that there's no more excuses, because he's at the peak of his powers at the moment, but he's the wrong side of 30, and we know which way it goes the later into the 30s that you get. I think he can play on for a good while yet and play at the top level for a good while yet. But if he's going to stay at United, he wants to feel as though United are in the best position possible to go and win the Premier League, the Champions League as well. It seems like a pipe dream at the moment, but that is where Manchester United need to be. And I personally, as well, am kind of sick and tired of having to sit here and not make excuses, but try and understand the situation of the football club and what they've been working against. All those big decisions, though, in the past have been made. The unpopular ones have been made in order for United to get to the point where they're at now, to go and actually kick on. And look, on any day, United can beat anybody in the Premier League. They did it against Arsenal. They did it against Manchester City. They've beaten Chelsea. I'm speaking ahead of the home game against Liverpool as well, but they beat Liverpool this season as well. All of those teams around them, they can beat them if their head is in it. I've spoken at length in the past about physicality issues with the squad, and I've spoken at length about attitude issues with the squad, which I think has held them back. I really do. But now we have to kick on. There's no more of that. They've got to get rid of those attitude issues if they still linger. Ruben Amorim, I think, did an unsung kind of job in regard to actually addressing those kinds of issues. And the mentality, you saw Bruno Fernandes in the huddle the other day before the Brentford game, talking about this is what we should be. This is what I expect out of you now. This is our attitude, our mentality moving forward. I don't know if you've seen the video floating around on social media. That's what he said. And I think it's time to recognize now that this is the time to awaken the falling giant, to bring it back to life and start getting United every year competing for league titles. Now, I'm not saying that they will, right? I'm not saying that at all. You may think at this moment in time that I'm being a little bit unrealistic. You may think that I'm actually spot on with what I'm saying here. They need to do a lot of work to the squad. They absolutely do. But personally, I'm not going to really tolerate any excuses anymore of like, we can't do this or we can't do that. They've set their stall out in the transfer market. They've said they're not going to overpay for players. And United, over the last year, have shown an example that you don't always have to buy the most expensive player out there and rinse your transfer budget in order to go and get the most popular player in the league from the last 12 months. You only need to look at the goalkeeper, Sané Lomans, recruited him really well, made a massive difference. You only need to look at how they've got Premier League experience with Cunha and Mbeumo as well. Sesko is starting to hit his stride. They might have overpaid for him a little bit, but that was a long-term investment. So I think down the line, United will hope that they can get the most out of those signings. And another summer on top of that, spotting value in the market, addressing the small issues in the squad, finally fixing the midfield with 2 or 3 signings. For the record, for me, I think it has to be 3. Finally fixing the midfield. I think we should get to a point, no matter who the head coach is, no matter who the manager is next season, that United have built a squad where it is solely on the head coach or the manager to deliver or not. I'm not going to tolerate anymore. Oh, well, like the midfield doesn't really have an engine in it and the players' physicality isn't up to the right level. Go and address it now. Go and address it now. That's how I'm looking at this. And Bruno Fernandes wants those guarantees as well. They said in the report, Fernandes may be waiting to see how United's transfer plans unfold, but the club hope their plans to build a squad that can compete for the biggest trophies will resonate with their captain and talisman. They obviously went big on the attack last summer. And in the report, it's mentioned that Elliot Anderson, Aurelien Tchouameni, Mamadou Ugarte could go, and those other 2 top targets, and Brighton's Carlos Baleba as well is one of a number of other midfielders that United are looking at. Whichever combination of midfielders they end up going and getting, I'll have my own opinions for sure. But the job is now on the recruitment team and the people in charge of the football club, now that they've got this Champions League money coming in with it, and the cash position is in a better position than it was. They've got a credit facility, which they can go deeper down into if they want to as well. They have transfer fees that they need to pay out that they currently owe. But United, for me, are in a better position than they've been in the last few years in terms of actually having ambition to go and win trophies and win titles. I don't think they ever had that under the Glazers. It was always about the Champions League. They now have a structure in place which has football knowledge and experience and know-how. They have it in the building. They have it in the building. Scouting, they have it in the building. Recruitment, technical director, they have all of this. They have all of this. A sporting director as well. No matter what you think about whether Wilcox is doing a good job and whether all of these people that they have brought in and what their credentials are, the most important thing is that structure is built. And now we need to look at United and expect that they continually deliver, because their target of winning the league is only 2 years away. They've made that not necessarily public, but it has come out in the public. I'm just going to remind you of that. And Bruno Fernandes is well within his rights for me to look at this situation at the moment and think, I want you to back this up as well. They kept him at the club last year. He was convinced to stay by Ruben Amorim. He was played in a deep lying midfield role throughout the entirety of the first half of the season until Ruben Amorim got sacked. And I said many times, I think they've let Bruno Fernandes down numerous times. It's time to stop letting him down. It really is. Now, I'm just going to refer as well to a report on Kobbie Mainoo that he has now agreed the new contract that has been a talking point since he ever really broke into the team in the first place. He came in, remember that game against Everton at Goodison Park, and everybody was blown away by him. His rise to playing in FA Cup finals and scoring in them, and playing in European Championship finals with England as well. That is how good this lad is. And obviously we know the episode with Ruben Amorim and how he was close to leaving, whether that's on loan or permanently. He always did want to stay permanently. I'm just glad that that chapter is over. And now he's going to get a pay rise in line with the players in the squad who are at a similar age and similar potential level. That's, for me, one really good thing about what they've done over the last 6 months or so. They have convinced Kobbie Mainoo that they are moving in the right direction. Will have him locked down at some point in the near future to that long-term contract so he can be a mainstay in this midfield moving forward. And I think there's a lot of potential there to still unlock as well. This kind of signal is the kind of thing for me that will help convince Bruno Fernandes that the club are moving in the right direction. But Bruno's been burned a few times before. What they need to do is sign 2-3 midfielders in the summer that can complement what Kobbie Mainoo is good at and what he's bad at, and fill in the gaps and also build the depth so that United are able to compete every week in the Premier League, in the Champions League, and in the cup competitions as well. Because I think now we're getting close to the time again where United and the people in charge don't have the time and the excuses anymore according to their own timelines. Like, you can't go into next season having qualified for the Champions League this year knowingly being short. I don't think they can do that. They can't take that risk, because you're going to add probably 15 games, 10 to 15 games on top of the 40 that they've played this season. And we know there's been plenty of times where United's players, through lack of fitness or through like where they are in their careers or the demands of Premier League football, they've picked up injuries. United have 3, I would say, injury-prone centre-backs. Lenny Yoro's had a good few injuries. Matthijs de Ligt spent the entire season, in the entire 2026 so far, out of the team after being a really good stalwart in Ruben Amorim's back 3. Harry Maguire picks up injuries. Licha Martinez has missed large chunks of time with serious injuries as well. And there's another report, which is from the Telegraph, saying that United are confident and prepared to actually go ahead next season with 5 centre-backs. And look, for me, I don't know if going and signing a defender at centre-back for like 50 or 60 million, considering all of the other issues in the squad at the moment that need to have cash addressed to them, I'm not sure that that would be the right move. I would look at somebody like Marcos Senesi from Bournemouth, who's going on a free transfer, right? And I would think if you can convince him to come in to add a 6th centre-half for a relatively low cost and no transfer fee, which is going to affect your amortization down the years and your cash position at the moment, if you can go and bring somebody in like that and have that extra bit of robustness and that extra bit of backup, then great. But it seems as though, according to this report, that United are prepared and confident to be able to go into next season with just the 5 centre-backs that they have. Licha Martinez, Aiden Heaven, Harry Maguire, Matthijs de Ligt, and Lenny Yoro as well. Now, that's fine with me. It is fine. But at the same time, if they take that risk and go into next season knowing that they have 3 or 4 relatively injury-prone centre-backs, and then in September next year or in October next year, those 3 or 4 centre-backs are injured, and United are down to bare bones in that position. Mazraoui can also play there as well. He did really well at Chelsea the other day. But if that's a point that United get to next season, it won't be any sympathy from me. It won't be any sympathy from me, because they know the situation. They know these players' loads. They know how injury prone they are, they need to manage them in the right way and acknowledge that there's going to be a lot more games and they've got to manage them through it. They can't go burning these players out. And I also think as well with that sixth centre back, like ideally the best teams in the Premier League or in Europe in general do have like a settled back four, and especially a settled pair of centre backs. They get a lot of stick. We only need to look at Arsenal and how important William Saliba and Gabriel have been to where they've got to over the last few years, because that partnership there is strong in the air. It has leadership in it. Maybe question that at some points, given how they've fallen down in the league over the last few weeks. They're massive from set pieces. They're both quick. They're both really strong as well. Two archetypal centre-backs, and they play together almost all the time. You know that they are the first choice centre-back pairing. And what I don't want is for United to go and spend a money, like 50 odd million quid or something like that on a centre-back, and then get to a situation where all of their players actually are fit next year. And then you're in a position where Aiden Heaven isn't getting as many minutes as he needs to get, or other players in there are getting frustrated that they're not actually getting the minutes that they were promised when they signed their contracts initially. There's a lot of things to juggle here. And look, for me, I'm not going to sit here over the course of the summer and shout and scream about stuff that they're not doing or are doing that I think is wrong or right. I'll obviously give my opinion on all of this kind of stuff as we go and lean on what I think the best choice is to make in those certain situations. But my word and social media's word isn't going to influence, and nor should it influence, the decisions that United are making in those rooms where they decide who they're going to bring in. It shouldn't influence it at all. So for me, they've got some big decisions wrong in the past. They've had the Dan Ashworth hire and fire after 5 months and all the money that they spent on him. They had the Erik ten Hag decision and the contract that they extended only to go and sack him after 9 games of the following season. And they also had the big statement of intent. Ruben Amorim, come in here now. You are our guy. You need to leave. You can't leave at the end of the season. We're not going to wait for you. You come in now. And you are our guy, only to turn around after just over a year and sack him in the end because they have let him down with stuff that he wanted in terms of recruitment, and United weren't compatible with what he wanted. They've made big errors. They've made big mistakes, and I acknowledge those. But I think they've also shown that there's a good or more solid record in terms of recruitment that is starting to form given the business that they did last year. They need to, again, over the course of this 2026 summer transfer window, get those right. I'm not saying that every signing has to be absolutely perfect. You can't expect that it's going to be perfection every time, but the hit rate needs to be a lot better. And if United have more transfer windows on top of the transfer window that they had last year of good hit rate signings, good ages, good profiles, good experience, good attitude, then United will be in a better position to go and try and win titles more frequently down the line. So my position on this, just again, to summarize, is that I've been patient with the plan. I've been trying to understand what INEOS's actual objectives and ambitions are. I've understood the timeline that they have set out, the Project 150 thing that they have communicated in terms of getting the men's and women's teams to win league titles by 2028. That is what they are working towards. We know that that's what they're working towards. So I didn't feel it was right for me, according to like every podcast that I've done and how I framed my attitude on this podcast down the years. I didn't feel like it was right for me to go and expect the football club to overextend themselves or to work quicker than the timelines that they'd set. Because the timeline for me, the end of it, is about going and winning league titles. And that's enough for me to be convinced that they want to actually go and meet these objectives, and we will get there in the end. If we don't, it's time for judgment. But if we do, I think they deserve a bit of trust and a bit of time in order to get there. But now I'm looking at this summer, big contracts going off the table. Jadon Sancho leaving, Casemiro leaving. That's a big chunk off the wage bill. What happens with Marcus Rashford? Big contract there, but we don't know yet. And other players too. Lots of big wages coming off the books. Fill those gaps in the team. Go and make a robust, strong squad that is capable of dealing with not only Premier League football, but Champions League football as well. And look, I'm not asking the world. I'm not saying in this time next year, go and win the league title. But I want to feel as though Manchester United are moving towards that. I want to feel next year that I can hope in Manchester United again, because that hope has been gone for far too long. And the expectation on a club that for so long was making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision and just plunging themselves further into the mire. I think those days, hopefully, are over. I'm optimistic that those days are over. And now it's time this summer to turn the page, get those contracts off, reinvest in the team, build a squad where we don't have any excuses for whoever the head coach is. We have no excuses not for them to deliver. That's where I'm sitting with this. And it seems like Bruno Fernandes is pretty much in this same boat. He wants these assurances from the football club and the decision makers as well. And all we want as United fans is for Manchester United to get back to where they should be. So let me know your thoughts on what I've said here. And how do you feel about it now? Are you looking at this summer transfer window and thinking that this is the time for United to take that extra step on and fully get back into the conversation of being a serious football team again? That is what I want out of United. I don't want to hear any excuses anymore. I don't. Now is the time for United to go and proper make a fist of it and start getting United in the conversations that they should be in and should have been in for the last 13 years. Now is the time to be a serious football team again, and let's see if they can do it. I'll be here most of the summer talking about the things that United do in the transfer market, offering my opinions on transfers and names that are being linked and that kind of thing as well. It's always I think it's quite an exciting transfer window, I've got to say, for United. I'll be here to talk about all of that. So please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify as well. And let me know your thoughts in the comments too on anything that I've said here. And let me know if you think that this timeline of winning the league by 2028, as they've set out, as I've talked about quite often, let me know if you think it's realistic or if United are still worlds apart. Only that game between PSG and Bayern last night, yes, that was a reminder that United are absolutely way off it. But PSG did a revamp of their team in the space of one summer. I know they run by state money and that kind of thing, but Bayern as well, proper serious football team. And they've gone and hired Vincent Kompany from Burnley, and now look at them. You might be naive in terms of defending, but they got some quality attackers. Now is the time for United to behave like a big football club again. Get in the comments section. Let me know your thoughts, and subscribe to the podcast as well, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube too. I'll see you soon, everyone, for another episode of TPL. Watch out for the comment show, which is coming up soon. Cheers.